You can also do conventions. I know tons of people who just make their living off of conventions. They just go to anime conventions, sell their art prints and all of that kind of stuff, and they can just
also
live
do
off that money.
conventions.
I know tons. So that's like 5 careers now. I'm trying to think of more. There's tons and tons and tons of career fields for this. It's just they aren't the typical studio career that people think of. And I think that's where this stigma came to be, that people think this style is not marketable because they aren't looking in the markets that it is marketable in. I don't necessarily think that you could go to a studio like Cartoon Network or Disney with this style. However, I do think that you could adapt it to their needs, draw what they want, and continue your own style on the side. Like, um, it's complicated, but the one thing that I really wanted to get into was the difference between generations of the difference between generations in terms of anime and in terms of like influences, because a lot of generations before ours never had as much Japanese influence or anime as ours did. I'm not gonna assume that everyone watching this is a part of my generation, but like according to my YouTube demographics, it's like 90% of the people who like watch my videos are like 25, around there. So, you know, the millennials versus like baby boomers or before. I don't know who's the generation before us. I don't know. I don't really care about generations, but the point is, let me just do a little rundown of my childhood to now, and I will do a rundown of like a previous generation to now. And you can see why so many people have this stigma or not so much a love for the style. It's because they think it's foreign. They don't really understand or enjoy that style because they've never been enveloped like ours has. Okay, so to start off, one of the most popular cartoons, or, well, I considered it a cartoon, it's actually an anime, but I didn't know that when I was little, was Sailor Moon and Pokemon when I was little. Pretty much every kid had a Pokemon video game, every kid had the Pokemon trading cards, everybody loved Pikachu, it was everywhere. Same for Sailor Moon, like every girl I knew had watched Sailor Moon. So this is much different than previous generations because I think because of just there wasn't as much of that export in Japanese stuff. I think most of what previous generations watched was just Western shows, either American or some other English-based show. So there's a difference right there. So now you go up a few more years. When I was in middle school, there was a huge boom in anime, like an insane boom in anime. Basically, you couldn't walk into a library and not see anime stuff. You couldn't walk into anywhere without seeing manga or anime. And this is around 2005 when it was just like every kid owned a How to Draw manga book. Like, it was insane. And there's so many titles coming out and so many shows coming out with anime basically. Not only that, there are more shows coming out that influence. For example, the new Teen Titans was anime influenced. Even like shows before that had anime influence. For example, Samurai Jack had anime influence. The Powerpuff Girls had anime influence. Avatar: The Last Airbender. So if you just look at shows alone and just the type of, you know, how they aim to children, it's not really a question why kids like that art style more than they like a Western art style, because it's more relatable. Like, it's what we grew up with. Um, Drawing in a more Western style is actually more alienating towards a lot of artists. So, my point is, I don't think that artists should just give up all of their um, favorite art styles just because they want to make it marketable. However, I don't think you should be trying to copy a culture's style that you know nothing about and doesn't necessarily reach a maximum audience. So I think you should kind of go the route of what studios do, where it's influenced by anime, but not anime. If you want to work for a studio. If you don't, then there's many other routes you can go that where you can draw on the full-blown, super Japanese-esque looking style without, without, you know, doing stuff you don't want to do. Um, with another video. So today I thought I would actually talk about something, but first I'll kind of explain what I'm doing before I get to the topic. I'm doing this challenge that I made. It's the Draw 10 a Day challenge, where you draw 10 sketches a day based off of the prompt. If you want to do it, the prompt is in the description. But basically, what I'm going to talk about relates to the prompt and everything. So, prompt well, European buildings, and the whole time I drew from several different countries. I was thinking of Studio Ghibli, and like a lot of stuff about Ghibli, and it kind of reminded me of something to talk about for a while, and that's people who essentially don't study, and they basically steal from famous artists, and Miyazaki is one that gets stolen from a lot. And I don't mean steal as in like they're tracing or anything. Like they're taking influence without even knowing it, and taking influence without studying from life. That's all they know in their repertoire. They never really create something new. They just sort of something that already exists. And this is something that you see really common with anime, actually, and that's why I think anime's styles stagnate and are starting to is because a lot of anime artists, directors, whatever, have had years of anime influence them. So instead of being influenced by life, they're influenced by animation. So you get kind of this nasty circle of people not drawing from their own experiences, rather drawing from someone else's experiences. Um, And that's why I kind of wanted to talk about this in terms of this challenge, because I was drawing all these buildings and I was thinking of Miyazaki, because European buildings are one of my favorite things to draw, and I've always them, and I really like the way that Miyazaki always did his backgrounds, but I never really wanted to copy his backgrounds because his were based off of several different influences, and they aren't really reality. Um, the way that he draws his world is kind of a combination of several different countries in one. Like, say for example, Kiki's Delivery Service. It's supposed to be set in like something like France, but if you actually look at a lot of the architecture, it's a lot of that architecture isn't exactly what France would have. It's kind of also German inspired. So that's what I mean. Like a lot from his personal attachment to these different countries and incorporating those influences, because Miyazaki's actually been to several different countries. He's had experiences to make him draw what he likes a certain way. So if you're just drawing from Miyazaki movies, what are you actually drawing from? You're not drawing from your experiences or research or anything. So that's why I want you guys to draw from your own life, because it'll actually resonate with people better, and you'll probably create something new. I've seen a lot of people do that, and it's not just Miyazaki movies. It's literally every famous artist out there. People do this, and it's kind of annoying because kind of lose themselves in copying artists instead of just working from their own experiences. I'll give a couple examples here. Steven Universe is really popular right now, and I see a lot of artists basically not draw anything but fan art, and which that's fine. You can do they aren't necessarily even adding anything of their life into this fan art. They're not really adding anything. So if you are going to be doing fan art, you should probably put it from some form of experience, right? So say, I don't know, it's just a lot of these issues I see just ever present. And another example would be Adventure Time. Remember when Adventure Time was super popular and everybody drew in that very thin line art style for a while, and everything looked very generic? That's kind of something that I see a lot, and it's kind of, I don't like to condone it, because it's not helpful to you to do that, and it's not gonna help you build a library of visual information for you to keep drawing what you want to draw. Helpful in pretty much any regard to just obsessively draw something in a style that isn't your own, that you didn't make, and you don't have any emotional attachment to. That's not healthy. That's not going to help you grow. If you're doing fan art, that's a different story, but keep in mind, if you're drawing in the snow and then you're not really adding any personal element, no interpersonal connections, nothing, then you're just basically drawing a character model sheet from different angles. That's basically what you're doing. Yeah.
I don't know. I kept thinking about it the whole time I was drawing these buildings. So I guess I'll kind of talk about the challenge now, because that's really all I wanted to say. Is basically just um, go out and live life and study from photos, from life, from research, and don't just copy other artists because it gets you nowhere. Um, but yeah, what I'm doing is I'm drawing several different European buildings from different countries. Um, Europe is kind of big, duh. So I was like trying to think of like which countries I wanted to draw and like what type of building I wanted to draw, because I didn't really want to draw like the famous buildings. I wanted to draw just sort of like what you'd see in small villages or towns, or just common architecture that's not really found as much in the States. So the first drawing was Venice, and I don't know where in Venice. I have this book of Venezuelan architecture. I don't know. It's like a really old travel book that I just like draw from sometimes. Um, and this is a German oats mill, so it makes oats. And I really like Germany, so I like drawing a lot of German architecture.
Okay, so before I start off on this video, let me just say I'm not a writing expert, okay? And I'm definitely not an expert in what makes somebody gay, but I do know a lot about writing gay characters because I have two of my main characters from my comic series are gay, and I've written many gay characters before, through fanfiction and various other things. So, if you can read the title, you probably know what I'm going to talk about right now. It's writing gay characters. There's a lot of issues I find with modern, or with the way some people write gay characters, and it can inevitably be a bigger issue that's not just towards gay characters, but towards anything that might potentially offend somebody, that people try to be tastefully inoffensive, making very bland characterization. But I got this question on my Tumblr. So if you want to follow my Tumblr, the link will be in the description. It's actually my website as well, so it won't look like a Tumblr link, but it's a Tumblr. And the question is, "Hi Holly, I thought I'd consult you about this because I know you're a blunt person and I need blunt. Wow, though. In my webcomic, my antagonist is homosexual, and it's a really big part of the plot. Pivotal. How does he really... He does all... Oh my god. He does really awful things relating to his lover. I want to ask you, is it a good idea to make him gay? I don't know what to do because I'm afraid it'll make people angry about his role in the comic. Thanks." So basically what this question is saying is they're afraid to make this character gay because he's not a good person. And if you show a gay person who's not a good person, then it's just gonna lead to a lot of negativity about your comic. But here's the thing about writing characters, is that people are people regardless of what they believe in or who they identify as or what they are sexually attracted to. If they're a shitty person, they're a shitty person regardless of what religion they believe in, what sexuality they are, whatever. So if you have a good person who's gay, cool. If you have a bad person who's gay, cool. The importance here is that you don't highlight bad and gay at the same time, unless it's like pedophilia, then you can. You shouldn't put gay as in the bad part. The bad part should be the character itself. Gay is just an attribute of the character. And this is something I'm noticing more and more with more gay characters. Damn it, phone. This is something I'm noticing more and more with gay characters in media, is that people are so afraid to offend somebody that they're not writing a character, they're writing a trope of a character. Here's an example. A lot of people didn't like Glee because a lot of the gay characters were very stereotypical. And the reason that these characters were very stereotypical is because any kind of personality trait that would be deemed negative people are saying it would negatively impact the gay community or something. That's not true. People can differentiate between a character trait and just a personality, sexuality, whatever. People can understand the difference. Well, if you write it well. So when you're writing a gay character, don't hold back. It should be exactly how you imagine them to be. And if you're afraid of offending somebody just because that's how the character is, then I'm sorry, but that's just like a pussy move. Don't be a pussy writer. Fucking write how you want to write. And it's the same thing with people who make Muslim characters, trans characters, and any other thing. They think, hey, I'm not trans, I don't have a right to write this story. Or, hey, I'm not gay, I don't have a right to write this story. Yes, you do. You have a voice, you have an opinion on anything. You don't need to be gay to relate to a gay character. You don't need to be trans to relate to a trans character. You don't need to be black to relate to a black character. The importance is that you're not relying on tropes to create this character. Yes, some gay people can be pretty effeminate. Ooh, but that doesn't mean that they're 100% effeminate. You can choose what you want that character to be. It's ridiculous. Like, you guys... I've seen so many people on Tumblr and various other sites that criticize anything that's gay and negative at the same time. Like, oh, this character is so good, but they're gay, so they're bad influence on the gay community. No. If anything, it's a good aspect of the gay community, because you're showing that even if you're gay, you can be a shitty person. Even if you're straight person, you're not putting everybody on this pedestal. So, yeah, I got this question and it just sort of baffled me that anyone could think like this. So, when you're thinking about writing a character, think about the person first, sexuality second, or skin color second, or whatever second. And I guess I'll give you some tips on writing gay characters, because major play in my comic. Simon lives in a very religious town. I can't really give any like specific details on that because it might be spoilery, but they're very anti-gay, like most religions. And because they're very anti-gay, he has personality traits that make him very unique because he is gay. So when you're writing a gay character, you need to understand, like, what is the world around them like, and are they accepting of them? You know, if you're writing, say, and a lot of people are like, well, gay people have always been marginalized and blah blah. But if you're writing a completely unique world, whatever, you can pretty much decide how accepting that world is of whatever. Like, you can literally have a world where it's totally okay to murder people once a year. Like, that's a thing that you can do. So if you want to have a world where it's completely acceptable to be gay, then that's something that you can write. You just have to be aware of that. So in this world, it's very not okay to be gay. So I wrote Simon's personality to be very suspicious, very cautious, very careful of a lot of things. But he's also a very confident person in what he believes. So a lot of what he's experiencing in this comic is just guilt of being gay. That's very much so a thing that happens if you're gay in a religious community or household. So when you're writing characters, you need to know what kind of environment, gay characters, you need to know what kind of environment they live in. Secondly, you need to understand that just because you're adding gay to a story, it doesn't mean it's gonna make it any more interesting. Just adding a little flavor flavor of gay doesn't make the story interesting at all. Like, say you have, I don't know, like a really stereotypical straight story that's super boring. If you make them gay, it doesn't necessarily make it any more interesting unless it can add a different take to the scenario. So, if you're gonna make a situation that seems boring if it was straight characters and doesn't really change if you add gay characters, then you're probably pandering to a gay audience or a female audience that's attracted to men, which if you're aware of that, then you can really make it work to your advantage. But just be aware that just making characters gay does not make it interesting. What makes it interesting is having good characterization itself. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. I'm not like an amazing writer or anything. It's just something that I just thought was so baffling and weird to me that anyone could think like this. So, so I'm gonna go to the other questions I got. I got a lot of them. I actually have a lot of questions on my Tumblr. I didn't even realize that people were asking me questions through Tumblr, and they kind of just piled up. So I'm gonna try to go through a lot of these questions on Tumblr because it's literally like pages long of questions. So yeah. Remember, if you have a question, you can ask it to me on Twitter, Tumblr, private messages on Instagram, email, or in the or in the comment section below, but in the comment section it gets lost easily, just saying. Okay. Hey Holly, I want to go to college to become an animator. I'm 15 and a sophomore in high school, piss poor also. My art needs work, and I also I want to focus a lot on bettering myself, but I'm scared since I'm going to be working on art for a while. I'm not going to start figuring out animation, not to mention I'm not actually good. An actually good program. I feel like in college people are far more experienced. Is that true? Or will people be new to the experience like me? So when you're basically asking, like, can you be like a total noob at animation stuff and go to an art school to learn animation? And the answer is yes. As long as you have a generally good draftsmanship or generally good ability to draw quickly, then you will probably exceed in animation. What you need to look out for, and you need to push yourself to do, less so learning programs, less so learning animation right now, is you need to push yourself to draw quickly, and you need to push yourself to draw consistently. That's something that you need to master in animation. If you want to do it correctly, you need to be able to draw characters at every angle, every perspective, and you need to push the movement in each pose. I suggest looking at animation books. I'm trying to think of what the book is called. It's on my shelf over there. Let me see if I can read it. Oh, An Animator's Survival Guide. That's a really good book. Sorry, I had to look on my shelf to figure out what it was called. But that's a really good book if you need to know the basics of animation. Really research the basics of animation. Really try to push your poses. Your poses are really what makes the difference between good animation and lackluster animation. Somebody who's really good at keyframes can basically work in animation forever, as opposed to somebody who's kind of shit at key poses. Okay, so next question. Hey Holly, I was wondering... Oh, that's a fucking dumb question, sorry. I should probably read over these before I do it. Hey Holly, I want to get more into character design. I was wondering if I could base a character off your personality. Yep, you can do that. I don't really care. Honestly, guys, if you're making characters, one of the best things you can do is base characters off of people you know in life, or know as a personality. Like, Herschel, one of my characters, I haven't made the comic for him yet because I'm finishing up Purgatory. Herschel's character is actually based off of Aaron from Game Grumps. I based like a lot of his personality getting very angry and saying really stupid shit. That's so it's fun to base your characters off of stuff you know, because then you can really actually understand your characters. At least that's what I think. Hey Holly, I'm currently lacking in inspiration for things to draw. Do you have any tips to get over this? Well, I've talked about inspiration a couple times on my channel, but I'll briefly mention what I do to draw or to have fairly good inspiration or to get me in the mood. First of all, I don't just look at like images on I go outside and I don't just life draw, although I do mention that a lot. Sometimes what inspires me the most is just like calming down, being really calm in my room, having shit actually clean for once. Like sometimes if I really want to get in the mood to draw, I clean my workspace, because what's going to help you a lot of the time is having a clear mind in order to understand what you're going to draw or have the mindset of drawing. And if I'm too worried about how cluttered my house is, it doesn't make me want to draw. And you guys have seen my shithole room, so what I consider clean is more like just scooping up the garbage and organizing it. But I light candles, I'll put on some incense, I'll listen to music I like, and then I'll just start drawing. And I won't stop drawing till I get inspired. So that's kind of what I do. I also look at, you know, the same shit I mentioned before. I'll go on fire, I'll fucking drink coffee to get inspired, I'll look at images on Tumblr and Instagram, blah blah, all that shit, it helps. Okay. So, I've been wondering this for a while. What kind of sketchbook would you recommend? I usually use Creelando colored pencils. I don't know what those are. And shading and Staedtler pigment liners for size 3 line art. Okay. So if you're going to be using colored pencils and pigment liners, I don't really know what those specifically are, because I've never used those, but I do know what colored pencil work and pen work like. The thing is, pencil work and pen work don't necessarily like the same mediums, and it kind of depends on how you use your pencil. And it's always like a good sign to have thick paper if you're using ink and pencil. Thick paper is the shit. Don't just go to the art store and pick up like that really cheap drawing paper that has like 5 million sheets. I would say try to touch the paper, and if it's thick, you know, if it's got kind of like a cardstocky feel, this for example is a good way to test if a paper's thick. Listen to the paper. Here's an example. That's me moving paper. And that's very thick paper. When you have thick paper, when you move it, it makes kind of sound, whereas thin paper makes like a foldy sound. This is thin paper. This is the sound of thin paper. That's very thin paper. That's like lined paper. So, if you're not sure how thick it is, listen to it. It's kind of like that scene. It's not about the taste, it's not about the texture, it's about the sound. It sounds very thick, then grab it. and it's gonna take a while for you to like what you like. I can't really give you any strong recommendations for sketchbooks because he bit. So, I can't tell you. You're just gonna have to try a bunch of shit. I know a lot of people really like those Strathmore mixed media pads, so you can try that. I personally hated it, so it's up to you. Sketchbooks are very personal. Let's see. Do you have any tips for building a following on a webcomic on Tumblr? I have only 2 people reading it, and they're both my friends. I'm a loser, I know. And my editing for the first part is coming up, and I'm worried no one's going to read my comic. Thanks, Holly. So building a following in general is about spreading awareness of your stuff. If you noticed in this video, when I was talking about how to write gay characters, I kind of slipped in the fact that I'm making a comic. I slipped in the fact, I kind of explained, oh, my comic, and then I slipped in my characters to explain a little bit about them. I kind of raised awareness without you even really realizing it, and it kind of makes you a little more intrigued, like, oh, I kind of want to read what Simon's up to. So, the thing is, you're gonna have to kind of put yourself out there and try not to be annoying about how you are telling people that you're working on a comic. So if you don't have a YouTube channel, which I think artists in general succeed more if they have YouTube channels, because people like to know how you make something. But whatever. If you don't have a YouTube channel, if you have like an Instagram, it maybe once every couple of sketch posts or whatever, just slide in a page of your comic and then mention something about it, like, I like the way that I inked this with my blah blah pen, and then people will be like, what's that from? Oh, you didn't know? It's from my comic. Ho ho! You know, just don't be annoying, like, read my comic, read my comic, read my comic, because nobody wants to fucking read your comic if you're being annoying about it. Just as, like, he's very strategic in the way that he tells people to buy his books, you should be the same way into telling people to read your okay. So, this question is, hey, I'm sort of awkward when talking to people, blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'm a really young artist and I want to be in, but I never really have time to draw because I get like 13 pieces of homework a week, as well as I'm struggling to choose topics for my GCSES. GCS? You're European. I know you are, because I've seen those on freaking sketchbook videos. I'm sorry, I'm American. I have no idea what that is. I'm moving to year 9, so I have to choose which lessons I want to learn. I was wondering, do you have any tips for this? Okay, first of all, I'm not British, which I assume you are based off of the GCSEs. So I don't necessarily know how your education runs. I don't really know shit about that. So if you want really specifics on that, ask a British person, Jellybee on YouTube. I don't know. She's the only British person I know that's an artist on YouTube. But the point is, if you're finding it hard to draw every day, and it's because of your homework, then something has to give. And you know what I would say? I would say, get out of those classes that are giving you so much homework. Say you have an elective, or some of your classes are advanced classes. Get out of advanced classes. You don't need them. If you're gonna be an artist, you don't need fucking quantum mechanics on your resume. Although it is fun to learn quantum fucking mechanics. I mean, top, bottom, and strangeness, my friend. But you don't need quantum mechanics, you don't need calculus, you don't need all that shit. So try to get in the stupidest classes you can that have the less amount of homework and focus on your art. And if it means staying up at night and not getting any sleep, then it means staying up at night and not getting any sleep. Okay, I think I can answer one more before I'm done here. Okay. Hey Holly, I'm a college student trying to get a degree in costume design. I really want to showcase some art that isn't clothing related. If you have any advice where to begin. Also, I'm in love with Purgatory. Thank you. So showcase art that isn't clothing related, but you're a clothing major. I don't know. I don't do costumes. If you notice, my characters are really lame in what they wear. I don't know. Ask somebody who isn't me. I'm a comic artist and illustrator. I don't know shit about fabrics, so sorry, I don't know what